Hi everybody, this is Kirk, and this is my presentation, Framework for Database Design and Modeling for MICU Locations. And just quickly, MICU stands for Mobile Intensive Care Unit. It's staffed by a mobile intensive care nurse or paramedic, and for this presentation you can think of it as an emergency room on wheels. The MICU program in New Jersey started almost 50 years ago, back in the mid-1970s, and it is a hospital-based program. The intent was it would maintain quality if hospitals ran them. Originally it was set up so that the MICU bases were based on population, but over the 50 years since those were created, many things have happened in New Jersey. Certainly population has changed over time, as you can see in the slide, but hospitals have merged, have come into existence, have gone out of existence. So the question is, are those MICU locations still optimally placed to produce lowest response times? So this project proposes to use actual emergency call information that's submitted by the hospitals to NEMSIS, the National EMS Information System. It has a separate database that has the locations of the existing MICU bases and the proposed bases. It uses a program called Arcgis, which is a mapping program which selects shortest drive time and gives a drive time estimate. And the output of that Arcgis program will be used to examine whether alternate locations actually do reduce response times. In the database, we have a patient ID record so that we can tie it back to the NEMSIS database if we want to do additional research. It includes the information for the address information for the emergencies, the MICU locations, what the hospital systems are that are supporting them. It includes the time of the emergencies so that we can do analysis to see if time of day versus time of year will impact the results of this analysis. We have to have sufficient security because there is protected patient information included in the system. We have to have backup capability. And finally, we have to have a flexibility to handle enough data so that we can get statistically credible results out of the ARC program. To test this system for this project, I used a flat file, but I think going forward, the ideal database would be a relational database design for a number of reasons included on this slide. Besides all the standard advantages you get with the relational database, you could tie back to the NEMSIS database, which is also a relational database. Now, for 10 questions asking users, the first question I think you want to start out with is, what is your criteria for success? The literature suggests that time is the measure you should be looking at, but maybe distance is something that the users would be interested in. Do we look at one location at a time or multiple locations at a time? What about combining different hospital systems? What are the requirements to add an additional MICU unit? New Jersey suggests that response time, 90% of all response times should be less than 15 minutes. So can adding an additional unit help to achieve that goal? Who's the audience for these results? What information are they going to need in order to get comfortable with with this work? Is this a one-off effort? Are we going to use actual data, or could we use what-if data? So, for example, what if a new nursing home is added to the area? How is that going to impact the results? Would it be helpful to tie in other databases, for example, weather databases? And is it going to be necessary to focus on data from multiple hospital systems, multiple projects? Now, for use case, the data analyst is going to be the person who's producing these databases, maintaining them, and producing the reports. And of course, the reports are checking to see whether we can relocate MICU. Is that going to provide any value? And the existing MICU locations provide a baseline for comparison for all this work. The operations manager is going to be concerned with, does any savings in time, does that justify the cost of relocating these units? And the medical director is going to be looking and seeing whether the time is if there's a significant savings in moving these bases in order to impact medical care. This is the entity relationship diagram for the project. And you can come back and pause on this diagram if you want more detail. But just quickly, the right side of the database looks at patient information, the emergency call location, the patient ID, the time of day. The left side of the database has information associated with the MICU basis, so hospital system, if the hospital system is providing the location or whether a public entity is providing the location data has all the information, all the location data that you would need. There may be more than one MICU unit based at a location, so you would have information for the particular unit, the nurse or paramedic, what their credentials are, what the unit number is. And by combining the MICU data with the emergency call location data, the Arcgis program will produce a separate database of response times. And that information is what we want to focus on when making a decision on whether we should move a unit or not. I included the table list with more details about the entities associated over on the earlier side. I'll let you come back and pause on this data. I'm not going to go through this slide in these two slides in detail, but you can come back and review it if you like. So the reports and querying, one report is just the basic response time. Will moving a base produce lower response time? And then the next report could be, what about if we look at different times of day or different times of year? I think in New Jersey, in particular, if we look at summer versus winter with the tourist traffic through the state, you would definitely get different answers on where the MICU units should be located. Response time, what happens if you add an additional unit to an existing location or in the same area? What if you combine two hospital systems butt up against each other, and does it make sense to coordinate where the units are placed between two hospital units in order to respond in each other's area in order to minimize response time to locations? And finally, if we combine all the hospital systems in New Jersey, we could be satisfying ourselves that for New Jersey we're doing the right thing and actually producing the lowest response time. This is output from the Arcgis program, and I loaded 150 calls that I went on, the locations of those, and those are those little dots. And you can see the locations of the proposed bases are those circles with the houses in them. And the bottom arrow points to my current location, and the top arrow points to a location that actually produced a lower response time based on this information. That came out of this course destination matrix, another output from the Arcgis program, and you can see it rates the locations from highest response time to lowest response time. You can see my current location right here shows an average response time of 13.75 minutes, and this location, which is located in Civic Square in the center of the town where I respond from, produced a savings of almost 2 minutes. Now, if this was more data and more times a day, I just work during the day, and more times during the year, I think if you came up with a 2-minute savings of response time, this is something that definitely the operations manager and the medical director would want to talk about to see whether it would be whether it would make sense to relocate this base. Now, the database includes patient protected information and includes the address of the patients, so we definitely need security. I would suggest that the computer where we're doing this work be located at the same site where the NEMSIS data is maintained at corporate headquarters, that there would only be a network connection between the two computers, that there's no means to copy data onto a separate disk from the computer. The on-site computer that we're using certainly should be password protected, and there should be an audit trail of activities associated with this database, and that audit trail needs to be monitored. In conclusion, the MICU program in New Jersey has been shown to be a success. And since its inception back in the 1970s, there's never been a review of those original locations, whether they made sense or not. So this project proposes a framework that would allow emergency information to be used and proposed MICU locations to be used to see if we could improve patient care. I'm just going to follow up with a couple of slides associated with the references. You can go through these on your leisure. And thank you very much. Okay, you guys have fun.